ICRT FM 100, it's DJ Caitlin and welcome back to Sweet Talk. And we have a special guest joining me here this Friday. I am so pumped. We have a hip-hop revolutionary legend here with us. His name is Shing02. He's been shaping global hip-hop for over 2 decades. Born in Tokyo, raised all around the world, from the vibrant Bay Area to Tanzania to UK. I mean, I'm just pumped that you're finally here in Taiwan. Let's welcome Shing02. How are you doing?
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. I'm just still surprised at this crazy radio station.
Radio is still alive. Yeah. And it's thanks to people like you making great tracks and encouraging people to come and tune in and also discover the stories behind the artists. So, speaking of which, for those who are just discovering Shing02, how do you define you?
Well, my name is Shing02. Real name is Shingo Annen. You know, I'm a Japanese born citizen of the world. And I just came to be in this hip-hop world, especially after high school. I moved to a place called Berkeley. I was there as an engineering student at UC Berkeley, and then I just hopped into this world of independent hip-hop music, you know, which is very unique from other forms of, you know, commercial hip-hop. So I just got lost in it. And then fast forward 30 years, here I am. Yeah.
It's an incredible journey, hasn't it been? And your story crosses literally continents, more than just Tokyo to the US. I feel like your whole life really is like a global remix. How do you feel like your experience living between different cultures shows up in your lyrics or your beats or your music?
Well, I'm sure it shows up in many, many different ways, you know. Well, chronologically, I grew up in Tanzania from age 3 to 6, then London from 6 to 9, and then I moved back to Japan like 3rd grade, you know, and I was there from 3rd grade to 8th grade. So I was immersed in Japanese culture at that time, you know, so I kind of forgot all about my upbringing, just trying to fit in, you know. And then when I moved to the United States at the age of, you know, 14, 15, I thought I had English pretty good, you know what I mean? But my vocab was stuck at age 9, so I had a really, really hard time integrating into high school, you know, just academically, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, of course I made it enough to get into college, but it was hard, you know. But and then hip hop and other, you know, 90s culture was just the soundtrack of our lives. So I think I was really born in a good time, to be honest with you.
Well, speaking of which, that 90s Bay Area scene, I mean, it was quite wild. I mean, there's jazz, there's spoken word, activism, turntablism, all coming together. I mean, what about that time do you think really gave creative inspiration to you and your music? And what part of that 90s era do you still carry now?
Yes, I mean, there are books written about that era, you know, and I could honestly talk for hours on end talking about how great just the environment was. And one thing people forget is that our generation, our parents were kind of raised in the civil rights era, and you know, Berkeley and also San Francisco, it was very rich and just not just like activism, just hippies, you know. It was that whole era. So we are just the children of that era. So a lot of times, like, we had people that were very open-minded and also very active and speaking up, and it was like second nature. It wasn't really a stretch to talk about anything, you know, for that matter. So I went to a school called UC Berkeley, and it was quite academic what I was doing in the institution-wise. But outside of that, we had a long street called Telegraph Avenue, and that's where everything was happening. You know, not just shops, but just people setting up shop on the street, selling zines, cassette tapes, eventually CDs, and people were literally like battling. And you know what you call a cipher, right? It's just a circle of guys rapping, and they were like freestyling over beatboxes, and it was just mind-blowing to me, you know. So even though I was going to school at the time and I eventually did finish, you know, I just got sucked into it. Yeah. And I can just talk honestly for hours just how just legend just came out of that scene, you know what I mean? DJs and rappers, and just history goes on and on and on. Yeah.
Wow. Well, we'll dive in a bit more about that a little bit later, but I think it's time we play a track. So you've given me some tracks. Did you say these are like unheard yet, or?
Yeah, so, you know, whenever I get these opportunities, people usually play whatever famous tracks, and I was just looking through my laptop, and there's an album that I made with my guy Koichi in Los Angeles, and I think it's out, but it's kind of no, it's interesting because he's kind of in the sound library world.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I think it's out somewhere in the universe, but it's not like major platform streaming. So I just thought I would share them.
That's so cool. So this is kind of like a special exclusive for Taiwan audience
it kind
in a
of
way.
is, yeah, no doubt.
Well, we're going to be playing every single track you sent me.
Okay,
which
whatever
is
you want to play.
exciting.
Yeah,
we
it's all
kicked
good.
off our interview with Bounce. This one is First Star. Any notes about this track before we play it, or should we just play it for people to enjoy?
You can just play it, yeah.
All right, enjoy this one. We've got Shing02 with me live here on air at the ICRT studio. I mean, we've got a living legend here, so stay tuned. We're going to enjoy some of the music, unpack some of the stories that, you know, that come through in the themes and also throughout his tracks. And also, we're going to be talking a bit about what he's here in Taiwan. He's got a show coming up tonight, so stay tuned to get all the goss. ICRT FM 100, it's DJ Caitlin here on Sweet Talk, and joining me here, we have a special guest who's toured the world and is finally making his mark here in Taiwan. We have Shing02. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, well, I'm just grateful that you've decided to come through to Taiwan as part of your tour. You're currently on tour doing the Lovesick Hexology Asia tour, is that right?
That's correct.
And you've got not one but two shows, both sold out, which is crazy.
Yeah, very lucky. You know, we've actually worked with the promoters. You know, Kuma Tribe, they've asked us to do festivals, and Hana, like, she even booked us club gigs in Taipei, like, many, many years ago. So it's a full circle.
Oh, it just, I mean, I'm just so, like, heartwarmed seeing that the fans are showing up and showing you love and that you're coming here. And I feel like it's kind of like a give and take. You know, you give something to Taiwan, and then I bet from you being here with Oma that the next hip-hop heads here in Taiwan will be inspired to create more music. So I'm be watching out for that.
Yeah, no doubt. Like, we definitely witnessed, you know, it's always newer, younger fans coming to the clubs, you know, naturally, organically. So we always try to bring that energy, because there's gonna be that kid that's, you know, never seen us before. And sometimes they tell us it's their first concert, you know? So it's got to be a positive experience.
Their first concert?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I hope it's not their last. I hope they keep coming out. All right. Well, obviously, like, your Asia tour is all about the Lovesick Hexology. And I feel like it's really grown into something spiritual that's gone worldwide. Why do you feel like Lovesick Hexology hit so deep and, you know, has become such a worldwide phenomenon?
Well, I mean, I'm going to tell you, you know, like I said in the beginning of the interview, we're very, very independent, meaning, you know, a lot of times underground. We're never signed to a major record label, myself or Nujabes, you know. So we really came out of that DIY ethic. And, you know, Lovesick was only meant to be one 12-inch record, and that became another 12-inch, and that became another 12-inch. And over the years, between the years of 2000 and 2010, when Nujabes passed away, you know, it kind of slowly back then evolved into a compilation, you know, and then he passed away before we completed the second set of trilogy, if you will. So after he passed away, we finished parts 4, 5, 6, released it, and then people honestly started calling it, oh, now it's a hexalogy, not just a trilogy, 2 trilogies combined, you know. So yeah, it's been a very long journey, and I say it on stage every time. It's still a chapter that's being written, you know. There's always something crazy going on, and including enlisting OMA to be the band to bring this experience. A lot of times, me and my DJ Spin Master A1, we would do the tours ourselves, and I love doing that too, because people get to rock with the original beats. But with OMA, it's an entirely different experience. They don't like to play with samples, period, Yeah, like, because I've had bands in the past that we still rock the beat and then they'll play over the beat, but they take such pride in first deconstructing and reconstructing the samples to make it sound but more, So it's a very open orchestral situation, if you will. So yeah, it's a very different experience and it's still evolving, And I've also performed the whole hexology with a band from Shanghai, the Either. So yeah, it's always fun. There's always something going on. Yeah.
Everyone's kind of adding their little fingerprint.
They are. It's a lovesick family at this point.
Oh, that's so cool. I can't wait to see the show tonight. Well, let's head back to the moment when you were writing Lovesick. I mean, did you realize that you were shaping a future classic or spawning a new movement or a genre, or were you just vibing in the moment? Like, how did it all kind of come together?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I wasn't thinking that at all, and this is around 99, 2000 when Nujabes approached me, hey, would you like to meet up and perhaps record a vinyl, record a song for a vinyl, because that was the format for our time. You put out a vinyl single to see how well your music is received. There was really no other measuring stick, if you will, especially in the hip-hop genre. So that was the idea. We met up. He gave me a cassette. And then, we vibed a little bit, but of course we're going our, different ways after we met. So I hadn't really paid attention to it, paid enough attention to it. And then one day I popped the cassette in. I was like, maybe this is a good track for me to talk about what I was feeling at the time. So, yeah, it's an interesting story, Like even the beat that I really, really wanted to use, my friend Pace Rock had already claimed it. So I had to kind of negotiate the situation. I asked Nujabes, and then I also done some favors for Pace Rock as well, and he was nice enough to allow me to use that beat. So if it weren't for that, little negotiating, maybe I wouldn't even be here right now. So, and then, rest is history, so to speak.
Wow, I didn't know there was a lot of negotiations happening under the table just for that beat.
Yep.
Well, a lot of people know your collaboration with Nujabes with Battle Cry. I feel like that kind of brought you guys into the mainstream.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit more about that story.
Sure. So Battle Cry was written for the show Samurai Champloo, directed by Shinichiro Watanabe, that came out in Japan 2004. So by the time me and Nujabes had pretty much finished Lovesick Parts 1, 2, and 3, because 2 was written right after 9/11 had happened, 2001. And Part 3, he had asked me to do it again. So, I pretty much wrote it around the same time as Battle Cry. So this is kind of something that came out of left field, that he was like, hey, would you mind doing the song for an anime? So I was like, okay, well, let me take a look at it. So initially, me and A1 created a song over a beat that he called Horizon later and put it out. It's a really upbeat, tune that ended up on his album. But then they kind of came back and said, actually, we want to do something different. We want to do something darker and in English. So at first I was like, okay, a little bit like confused. Like, you asked me to do a Japanese song over that track. Now you want something different. But it's all good, and it turned out obviously a lot better because it was for a global audience. And little did I know back then that it would actually be aired in America. I had zero clue. But I mentioned, meeting Dale the Funky Homo Sapien on Telegraph. Like, literally, I met him on the street, and I listened to him in high school, and his favorite show was Cowboy Bebop, directed by Shinichiro Watanabe, the same guy that did Samurai Champloo. So, that got me super excited. I could finally tell my sensei, that, hey, I'm doing something cool, that's also going to air in America. It was on Cartoon Network on Adult Swim, which a lot of people paid attention to, So it was like really slow, development for me, just getting little breaks and opportunities like that.
All right. What a story. Oh, I had no idea the history and the little sort of quirks and movements that you needed to make just to have one thing lead to another to where we're here sitting today about to play Battle Cry. Well, you may have heard this one. I know Taiwan has plenty of anime fans here. I'm sure they have probably heard Battle Cry, but if not, we're going to play it right now. And stay tuned. We have Shing02 joining me here on air for a little while longer. You do not want to miss out the stories we're going to unpack today. ICRT FM 100. This is DJ Caitlin on Sweet Talk, and joining me here as a special guest, we have Shing02, is the artist that we just heard on that track, Just to Be, but also he's here on a tour. I know it says Asia Tour on the poster, but to me it seems like you're doing a world tour, bringing the Lovesix hexology everywhere. Isn't that right?
That is quite true, because just last month, me and my DJ Spin Master A1, we did a 7-city Europe tour. And that was pretty much our first official European tour ever. You know, we had done just small things, small gigs here and there. So that was really epic for us. A1 hadn't even been to most of these countries, so that was a lot of fun. And the crowd just came out, you know. It was awesome. Yeah, like at the beginning of the tour, there were some worries. Oh, are we going to be able to? Nope, you know. Yeah, we sold it out. It was awesome. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was very, very cool.
Were you able to create some new tracks on tour? I mean, I know you're here in Taiwan, you're collaborating with a few local artists.
Yeah, so features are always, always on the table. There's so many songs that I haven't even finished. A lot of projects on the back burner, so, but being independent, we have the luxury of kind of saying, okay, I need to work on what excites me the most. So even the last couple months, I was working on a Japanese album. I finished 2 pretty much demos and mixes already. I'm finishing up right now. So yeah, I'm excited to share them.
Where can people check out all this material? It's coming out later this year?
I mean, of course, yeah. If you follow any of my, socials, it'll be out on streaming eventually. Yeah.
Shing02, so SHING02, is that right?
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Everywhere.
Yeah. Literally
everywhere. Well, I know you've worked with a lot of legends, but is there a dream collab that, you still think about today, or you might want to, or maybe even a style of music you want to try and explore?
It's always, that's a heavy question, because I personally feel like I've worked with so many great artists over time. Even when I started, I've worked with legends, in the game, like Ken Ishii, DJ Crush, Ryuichi Sakamoto, just to name a few, DJ Honda. So I already feel very blessed, including Nujabes too, right? So yeah, I don't necessarily have like a wish that I want to work with a tribe called Quest, or I actually have recorded with one of the members, but it never kind of came out, so I'll just keep that under wraps. But I met Dres from Black Sheep and a lot of my legends, so yeah, I can't really complain at all. Yeah.
Well, just let the journey continue, isn't that right?
Yeah.
Well, another question I do personally have is, obviously you rap between English and Japanese, mm-hmm. and it's almost like it's nothing, like it's just so easy for you. Mm-hmm. As someone who's also bilingual and I sing in both languages, I know it can be really difficult to do that. But do you feel like when you change languages, do you change personalities or emotions or the messages, or does that influence the way you write, or do you have like a different mindset when you're like, oh, it's going to be Japanese at this section?
Well, over my career, I've kind of kept those almost 2 careers separate. I hardly mix Japanese and English in the same song or even the same project. If I'm doing a Japanese album, just strictly Japanese and vice versa. So that's just kind of been my style. A lot of Japanese rappers or singers would mix the 2, but I just like to keep it separate. And the reason being, of course, like when I started writing English rhymes, it was all about battling and trying to prove your skill and your worth, but eventually it kind of became a little bit more of like a universal kind of theme, like more kind of that way, but when I write in Japanese, it's a little bit more personal, and not just me, is more like very intricate. I really respect the Japanese language, that I know that there's a lot more potential than what is being done in the commercial sense. A lot of J-pop that you here, to me, it kind of all sounds very similar to each other. So I really want to touch something when I really write in Japanese, yeah.
And speaking of writing in Japanese and the Japanese hip-hop scene, I mean, I would say there was a sense of like rebellious spirit, you know, that happened in Japanese hip-hop and when it first developed on. How do you think it's evolved in unexpected ways, or where do you see that Japanese hip-hop scene going?
Well, I really can't speak too much on it as because I'm not an ambassador of Japanese hip-hop, although I have a lot of good friends and mentors in that scene. And one thing I can say is that a lot of the OGs that built the scene in the 80s and 90s, they're still around, you know, like including DJ Honda or my good friend Reno and Kaminari Crew, you know, they're still around and just still going. So I really respect them a lot for what they do and what they have done. And now you have a whole new generation of rappers, like, you know what I mean? Like they're way more out there making great music videos and being very technical with the rapping. So it's a whole different game at this point, you know. I feel, yeah, it's just a whole different generation.
Just got to dive in and experience it all, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there are crazy rappers out there, you know, so I feel like it's almost like a different genre. It's really hard to just say it's just hip-hop, yeah, even though it's just evolved into so many different styles. You know, obviously Japanese hip-hop is heavily influenced by American hip-hop, you know, mainstream hip-hop, like just the sound of it, you know, and right now the mainstream is that heavy trap sound.
Well, a little bit earlier today, you were telling me off the mic that you got into hip-hop through making album artwork. Is that right? Yeah.
That's correct.
So is that still a big part of your creativity? Or is there anything beyond music that feeds your creativity these days or gives you a big influence?
Yeah, so I was basically like, you know, drawing ever since I was a kid. I was never like formally trained, but I really loved manga and Tezuka Osamu, and, you know, it was more like illustration than, say, graffiti, even though I was very influenced by graffiti as well, you know. So I just started showing my artwork, and then I was doing flyers, zines, you know, covers, all sorts of things. And while I was just kind of, you know, becoming a budding hip-hop producer and MC. So, yeah, it was really good that I had that skill, you know, instead of just trying to convince people that I belong as a rapper first, yeah. But to answer your question, I still, you know, try to stay creative. So I'm always like drawing or sending tags to people and friends, like constantly, just to kind of keep me engaged, you know what I mean? So I will draw, and also I've gotten into fashion quite a bit last decade or so, having my own brand. So I'm always doing something. Yeah.
It's always beyond the music. It's everything you can touch and create, you're on it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just me. Everybody's always doing something, you know? So we all need to stay creative, and I think, yeah, if you feel stuck in any one particular thing that you're doing, I think it's important to stay creative. You know, it doesn't even have to be music. It could be painting. It could be cooking. It could be traveling, I think. And don't be so hard on yourself that, oh, I'm taking a break from this particular creativity. You can just still be a creative person.
Do you have any advice for anyone that wants to be more creative or maybe get into hip-hop or is a budding artist themselves?
I mean, my only advice is that there is no secret to the sauce. You just have to do it, you know, period. And I guess if I were to throw an advice, it'll be like, just do not worry about trying to impress the people that are higher than you, because that's not really a sustainable way for you to come up in the game. Even though it seems as if you need to be co-signed, you need to link up with a famous producer, you need to link up with so-and-so, or you need to be discovered by a label. Our experience says otherwise, you know. You eventually need to work with your peers, cultivate your own audience, and grow organically, and then that'll create the momentum necessary for you.
I think you couldn't have said it any better. Just be yourself and put yourself out there and create a little scene.
And that's hard.
It is hard.
But doing it the other way, it's almost like trying to win the lottery. I don't think it's very realistic. You should really create your own audience.
And it also doesn't sound like you. It isn't your organic way. Yeah. Well, let's play some more music, and we'll have some other little nuggets from Shing02 here on ICRT very soon. This one is The Process. Enjoy, and we'll be right back. ICRT FM 100 Telepatia. That one was Kaylee Uchis. And joining me here today, we have Shing02. Welcome back.
What's up?
I am so pumped for your show tonight. You're going to be playing at Sub, which is at the Taipei Music Center. How are you feeling about tonight? What can fans expect at the show?
Well, I definitely recommend that you get there before 8 p.m. when OMA they do their set, which is just amazing medley of hip-hop classics interpreted in their way, and they have this incredible system of, putting together songs in a very unexpected manner, and they even do like a whole Nujabes set, tribute set, and then A1 does his thing, and then we come on and do a whole show. So don't miss it. Be there at 8 p.m.
Oh, well, unfortunately it's sold out, but for those who have tickets,
yes,
don't miss out.
For those who have, yes.
But for those who unfortunately can't grab a ticket, where's the best way that they can follow you and check out your journey and maybe get alerts for the next time you're going to be in town?
I mean, anywhere. You can look me up, Shing02. And there's even a show with OMA, myself, A1, and then Uyama Hiroto, who's a close collaborator of Nujabes. We all did a great show in Tokyo, and that was all, mixed and edited, so you can enjoy that show for sure on YouTube.
I was checking that out last night. It was pretty.
Yeah, Uyama's
fire.
A genius. Uyama is a genius.
Yeah, I know. Oh, all of you are genius. All right, well, before we wrap up today, are there any words you wanted to share with any fans that are listening, or any last words of wisdom you want to share to anyone who has been tuning into today's interview?
Oh, man. I mean, hip-hop has been really great to me, and, obviously every year is something different, so our whole lifestyle is based on being a freelance. And one time my good friend DJ Icewater, he said something that really resonated with me, is he said, I stay freelance because I want to be ready for any opportunity that comes my way, and I've just been the same, honestly, for the last 30 years, and it's not easy. And of course, even if you were smooth sailing, there's all these things that happen in the world, For me, there's been not just me, even the last few decades, there's been 9/11. In Japan, it was 3/11, and then the COVID happened. So the world is so unpredictable, but you really have to set your own groove in your own terms, and that's where creativity comes in. I always believe that there is a creative solution to every conflict, so whether it's internal, external, so we just gotta stay creative, and that's all I gotta say about that.
I love that. Stay creative in whatever form that may be, whether it's making album artwork.
Yeah, it could be personal, it could be business, it could be it could be your actual creative job, whatever it is, just remember, there's a creative solution to everything.
Definitely. And it's also the one thing AI can't take away. I feel like that's the next thing hitting the world.
Well, I mean, I don't support it, but AI is just another tool as well. So, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Just like Wi-Fi, just like iPhone, it's here.
It's here.
Yeah.
Make it your friend, not your foe. Well, thank you so much for joining me here today, Shing02. Honestly, it's been such an incredible time being able to learn more about the stories behind certain tracks and hear where you're going and hear little nuggets of wisdom and advice. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy tour schedule to come to ICRT and also share some tracks that are kind of like a special exclusive to Taiwan.
It's all good. Yeah, thank you, Caitlin. And is it Kate or Caitlin?
Both works.
Okay, thank you, Kate. Thank you, Alex, for hooking it up. Shout out Jazz Couscous. Shout out Claudio, chilling in Dubai and Paris. That's our crew, you know what I mean? So we got to stay true to our crew.
Yeah. All right, wrapping up with this one. This is Smooth. For everyone else, I'm still live on air, so stay tuned. And once again, thank you so much, Shing02. I'll see you tonight at the show.
Yeah, thank you. Peace out.
back.